Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and this video is brought to you through the EA Creator Network. It is also tagged as an ad because I did receive a free early access code to the brand new expansion pack, which is The Sims 4 Life and Death. Grim is about to welcome you all with open arms, and I hope you're cozy. I hope you are settled for this one, because I fear that you may actually be an elder by the time this video is done. Figured we'd start off by going on this journey together, and of course that is the Souls journey. This is pretty much the overarching new feature that we have introduced in Life and Death. It's basically a life tracker, and the points that go towards this system are collected using your Sims wants, and when you complete them, their aspiration goals, completion of bucket list items, the midlife crisis, and also New Year's resolutions, if you have seasons, can also contribute to this. Basically, anything that really feels like a step forward in your Sim's life is gonna give you some points towards your Soul's journey. The new UI for this can actually be found in your aspiration panel. It is slightly annoying because it makes your like aspiration drop, but I guess it kind of makes sense because this is now your overarching thing like all throughout your life. This starts from the moment that you hit young adult, and I will say my Sim was a young adult this whole time, and I did feel like it was quite easy to complete. She stayed a young adult. It didn't really take her into like even adulthood, which I just feel like maybe they were giving a little bit too many points and it just felt a little bit too easy. But it's this new wheel that you see, and it works clockwise. So as you actually partake in all of those activities that I mentioned and complete them, your points will go up and you will see it start to shift around. You'll also get a notification when one of the steps is completed, because completing each of these steps actually gives you some rewards. So those can be anything from getting extra satisfaction points, some extra skill gain, a boost to your career performance. Purchases can be discounted from the computer. You can also get an extended amount of life. You can unlock additional heirlooms, and then finally the last one is the fact that you will be able to rebirth your Sim. That's the last one that you can get whilst your Sim is actually alive. And then if you happen to pass away and you continue on as a playable ghost, that bucket list will then be transferred to unfinished business. And the first unlock whilst being a ghost is extra ghost XP that will obviously help you level up in your ghost powers faster. And then finally there's the burning soul trait, where if you do decide to be rebirthed, you can actually retain one of your traits from your past life, and then you can also transfer your younger skills, so like your infant and toddler skills. Some of those will carry over if you choose to be either of those as your age category when you do actually go through rebirth. Unfortunately, I couldn't play around with rebirth in this gameplay video or in this early access. That wasn't a bug, it was actually just due to the limitations of the game that we actually play on in early access. So I do apologize that this video doesn't really show off any of that, but when I do actually purchase this pack and I start doing all my full videos on them, we will obviously experience that together. Obviously, alongside those rewards that we have already spoken about, I did realize that the Souls journey was really just affecting the moodlets the most. I saw a lot of like inspired moodlets. I think because it had so many things contributing to it, and obviously I still don't even have all of them because some of them are tied behind other packs, it just felt like it was so quick to go up and didn't really feel all that different from like the aspirations that we had on our game based on the speed that I actually managed to complete it. But who knows, maybe I'm just actually really good at playing The Sims 4. Whilst the Souls journey actually starts as a young adult for human Sims, if you are a ghost, this actually starts when you become a teenager. If you have a child ghost, they can actually go to the Baleful Bog and you can age them up so that you can also partake in their unfinished business. I spoke about the bucket list actually contributing to your Soul's journey, so let's get into that. You can write your bucket list either on a PC, and they have also introduced a new journal. Unfortunately, the journal animation is a little bit weird. They mostly just read from the journal, which was odd because it was like, go and write a new bucket list. I don't know why they didn't just use the animation that we had with like the parenthood journal. I think I saw my Sim maybe do that like one time out of the many times I had them write a bucket list idea. They can also just spawn over time. My ghost actually wasn't spawning. They are created based off your Sim's personality traits and the kind of things that they are into, but you can also choose from a category. So maybe your Sim wants success, maybe they want to get busy, and yes, that does mean a cheeky woohoo here or there, party, adventure, great family, create, travel, or something else. Creating a bucket list goal from one of those categories will bring you a random one from one of those categories. However, if your Sim has the trait of chased or embraced by death, they witness a Sim die, or they actually attend an afterlife anonymous meeting, they can actually craft the perfect goal, which is kind of like a cheat. I'm sure a few of you are used to playing mods where you can kind of shift click a Sim and you can see all of the options available to you all at once. This kind of uses that same UI that you're used to seeing, and it just opens up all the categories and shows a full list of all the goals that you can actually write on your bucket list. Now, once again, I did only play with base game and life and death installed, so I'm excited to see the cross-pack compatibility here. Some of them I felt were super easy. You just have to do like a couple of interactions here and there. I also got one to travel to Willow Creek for a day out. However, there were definitely some harder ones. My Sim wanted to boss at skills, which was actually having 10 skills, which is an awful lot of skills, all above level 5, which was a nice challenge because I feel like The Sims 4 doesn't really give you challenges all that often. There was another one to have 100,000 simoleons in the household funds, which definitely doesn't happen a lot for me personally. However, I will say this pack really easy to make money. I swear the Reaper career, you truly do reap the benefits. If you do have some harder ones, or maybe you just think like this doesn't really make sense for the storyline I'm playing out, you can actually clear your list. I'm fairly sure that gets rid of all of them though, and you can't do this too frequently. There is a cooldown on it. You can't just constantly generate new bucket lists. And like I said, this changes to unfinished business when you have ghosts, and those are actually applicable to ghosts. So I noticed that my ghost had obviously quite a lot of the evil section of the ghost powers, and she actually got some unfinished business tasks that played into that, and she had to scare people, she had to cause chaos with her ghost powers. She was also macabre and said that she wanted to witness a dead body, and obviously there's only a fair few ways that you can go about that, so I don't know what she was planning. Future Olive Spectre in the making right there. I did notice that obviously because my ghost ones weren't really spawning randomly by themselves, once I did actually start to generate them, they zoomed through the beginning stages of the soul's journey, like even faster than my human Sims. I guess that's kind of because they expect you to maybe have already done the life ones if you are a playable ghost, but now that you can play as a playable ghost like from Create a Sim, I don't really know why they made that decision. I still would have liked to actually have to work until I got to unfinished business, even if I was a ghost from the get-go. Absolute plot twist that I fully was not expecting when I first loaded up into this expansion, but the tarot is actually probably one of the biggest features, not because it's anything like hugely game-changing. However, there is a brand new collection. Obviously, you can just buy in build and buy mode a basic tarot pack, and with this you can offer Sims a reading which actually costs 30 simoleons if you want it to. You can also give them a free reading. You can also do readings for yourself, which is quite interesting because that's when you actually see what tarot does. So you'll pull a card from your deck, it's just one card scenarios, and then it will actually come up with a pop-up. It will give you a couple of activities based on the card that you pulled and kind of like the meaning behind it, what they suggest you do to like make the most out of it. However, if you pay very close attention to the left hand side of your screen at the bottom, you will see a third want spawn over your Sim's head, and that want is actually driven by the tarot card that you just pulled. So I had my Sim pull a card and it was like, take a photo. So I had my Sim take a selfie, and obviously she then completed a want, which then added to her soul's journey. This isn't a new skill at all. It isn't really like an official hobby. You can't like or dislike tarot within Create a Sim. There are 26 cards in total. You can go to any of the areas of this new world. In each neighborhood, there is a tarot tome shrine. If you actually can't find these, if you go to the town hall, you can ask the camera to focus on specific parts. But once you found the tarot tome shrine, actually read about it, and it will bring up the Order of Lenore information. You will see 4 Sims who are part of this Order of Lenore, and they have basically tasked themselves with finding every single one of the cards in Lady Ravenwood's secret tarot deck. These cards can be found by using intuition on different objects around the world. You can also do favors for the order. So to do these, you have to go talk to the different order members. I think they have 2 each, but these favors are again kind of mini tasks. There was one that I found really, really difficult. I had to find a death flower. And as we all know, especially if you'd been doing the Reaper's reward event, death flowers are not easy to come by. It did say that I could purchase starter flowers and then go and open the seed packets at the graveyard, which would give me a death flower. I did that with about 60 seed packets and I did not see a single death flower. Nyan, formerly known as Nervous Subject, he gave me a little gnome, and then I had to meet up with Grim and I had to give Grim the gnome, and then I had to report back to Nyan. But you can also find them by searching crypts out in the world. But if you are actually struggling to find these cards throughout the world, all you have to do is open up the collection, hover over, and the tooltip that pops up will actually give you a hint as to where you can find them. So it will say something like, use your intuition on the well. Once you have found 25 of them, you actually have to use those 25 cards to summon the Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper will bestow onto you the last and 26th card. Once Lady Raven Dancer's tarot deck is complete, it actually does a little bit more than what the basic one does. You can actually summon Lady Raven Dancer. Unfortunately for me, this was not working. It'll be interesting to see if she is actually a spellcaster if you have Realm of Magic. You can also do a Divine Slumber and Affirmation Healing. Not gonna lie, don't really know what either of those do apart from affect your emotion. If you don't want to put all your effort and energy into this, then if you have a cheeky 8,000 spare aspiration reward points, load up the reward store, scroll almost all the way to the bottom, you can actually just buy this full-blown tarot deck. For 3,000 reward points, you can also purchase an undead cow plant. They're not really that much different from regular cow plants. Speaking of passing away, you want to get your Sims' affairs in order before they go, and that's where wills and heirlooms come in. So wills, you can either write these at your computer at any time. You can also go to the town hall, or whilst the family fun day is actually happening in Crow's Crossing, you can go to the outdoor lawyer office. Once you actually create your will, it will spawn in your inventory, and from that you can edit it, which is listed as updating it. You can add a personal note. You can choose what remains you like, so you can choose your urn or your gravestone. Under remains, you can also change your funeral plans, so you can actually choose from the activities. Kind of works the same way as my wedding stories, but don't worry, fear not, it is a little bit better. Once you are actually planning your funeral, it'll come up with a little icon, like a little scroll, which actually says that you wanted that at your funeral. You can also choose what to do with your simoleons. This only works if you are the last remaining playable sim in your household. That is the only time your simoleons will go anywhere. But you can choose to give your money either to charity or to another household within the game, and that can also be split up using percentages. So you can split it up to multiple households or charity. Just keep in mind you have to know the household to be able to give them money in your will. Dependents are either your cats and dogs, your horses, the pets that you have, or the children that you have. You can leave these dependents with another household. Again, this kind of is a collective, so I could actually have the uncle decide on the dependent and where the dependent could go. You can also set your heirlooms here. You can also also set your heirlooms just by clicking on random objects. If you read the summary of your will, it actually comes up with a huge long notification if you've gone through all of these that basically just sums up your whole will and what you have chosen to do. You can also clear certain choices. Excellent news for either rotational players or legacy players. I know that you lot are going to be excited about this because I personally was excited about this, but obviously I wanted to go in and test how this worked if you kind of had multiple active households that you were playing through. So I had an elderly sim and I had her move out. I had her set an heirloom just to kind of test this theory. For some reason, it was saying my simoleons had already been given. I think that was a little glitch that the game wasn't realizing, that while she was previously living with the family, like they had already decided what to do to those simoleons in one person's will. But then when she moved out, it didn't like clock that she now had like a different set of funds. We bought the suit of armor. We said treat him like the king that he is on our little personal note. And then I left this actually to one of the sims that we were originally living with. And then I hopped back into the other household. I got a notification that said someone has left something to you in a will. Make sure you read that will once it arrives. And finally it did arrive only a couple of days after. I had my sim read the will that was given in the post, and lo and behold, I went into the family inventory and he was there. Once you actually do have an heirloom, there are a couple of other things that you can do. When you actually scroll over the item, once that message has been written, it will actually come up as a little tooltip. You can actually ask for a higher value, which means that the sim who gets that from you can sell it for a higher value if they decide to pawn it. You can actually also just pass heirlooms on whilst you are alive. So it just like stays in the house, obviously, but it does have like the little note. You can also call upon the owner, and this will actually make the owner's ghost spawn. You can think about the owner. Of course, I summoned the ghost and then sold it on right in front of her, and I did get a sentiment for this. However, I was expecting it to be a sentiment with the ghost herself. It was my brother. He was like, I can't believe someone has pawned off a family heirloom. I'm like, that wasn't even your family heirloom, bro. That was literally mine. I tried to give something to you and she didn't even know you. So clearly you didn't put in the time or energy to get to know her while she was alive. Just a quick little note here that is a little bit concerning to me, but I couldn't pass anything down to a child sim, which I kind of wish you could. I feel like giving stuff to children is a nice little thing to do, especially if it was like a journal or something, like getting them ready for maybe when they turned into a teenager and like wanted to write down their feelings. I definitely would have preferred that in terms of storyline. Next step is probably death. And yes, there are 3 new deaths that come with this expansion. It wouldn't be called life and death if there weren't any. So the first one is actually the baleful blog. This is the shimmering kind of swimmable area that you can see in Morning Vale. If your sim swims in this, they can temporarily become a ghost for about 7 hours. This was absolutely glitchy for me. My sim kind of kept turning from a ghost back to like a human and then back to a ghost. He did get a dazed moodlet though, and then that wore off, but he was still a ghost, but then the 7 hours wore off. So I had him go back, and then it said that he was a real ghost, and then his little gravestone did spawn in his inventory, but it said that he died by a fire, which there was no fire. And then again, I quit my game, I came back to it, and then he did actually pass away. Like he went through the full animation of passing away after I'd sent him back into the bog for the 3rd time. Just know if you don't listen to that day's moodlet and you do try and repeat to go into the bog, it will turn you into a ghost forever. Crows really are just like the birds and the rabbits that we got in cottage living. They just live on their perch. You can socialize with them, you can befriend befriend them. You can give them gifts, they can give you gifts. You can also send them out on recon missions, so they'll just kind of have like their own little gossip situation. But then there is also the option to provoke them. If you do multiple provocations, maybe after the third time though, it came up with like, hey mate, if you're not careful, then I'm gonna have to bring my mates over here. And then a couple more tries after that, the crow took action and did actually kill a man. And then finally, there is old age in bed. This is only available to elder sims. Once you have actually got like, your days are coming to their end, like you should wrap up, you should do all of your business, your age will start to sparkle. It's the same as like all the elderly deaths dying from old age that we're used to seeing in the game. However, for this to actually be like dying in your deathbed, you have to be in bed at the time of you passing away. There is actually a new interaction with the Grim Reaper when someone passes away though. You can challenge Grim, and this actually means that you challenge the Grim Reaper to a game. Now, the chess is obviously available in just base game, and then there's a bunch of others that are available. So you can play basketball with him if you have city living. You can play ping pong with him if you have Discover University, Don't Wake the Llama, Foosball. And if you actually win at that match, he will spare the soul. Once your sim passes away, we now have the option for funerals. I know so many people have wanted these for so many years, and I know I said it sounds like my wedding stories. Don't worry, it works better. I promise you that. So you can throw this obviously through the urn or the grave of the deceased person. If you go through this option, it does just do it like then and there. Same with the computer or also like a social event through your phone. It does it instantly. If you want to plan it in a few days time and maybe have your sim like start the process of grief, then you want to plan it on your calendar. If you've done it through the urn, then the deceased will already be picked out for you. If not, choose your deceased person. You can choose your guests. It's up to 8 guests. However, if you're feeling that's maybe not enough people, or your sim wasn't really close to anyone but you still want people mourning you, you can actually hire paid mourners. You can hire 4 of them and they will literally just come and attend. And you can also have an entertainer, works like all the other entertainers. You can obviously choose your activities. The fashion choices do actually work. I had my sims wear black and rocker fashion and they all turned up in the correct outfits. My wedding stories could never. The activities are like pour one out, light candles. You can give a happy eulogy. You can give a sad eulogy. You can also have ghosts do evil or good powers. At funerals, there's a bunch of things that you can actually do. You can plant things. Maybe if your sim was a gardener, which is what I actually chose because he was in the undertaker career. So I made sure I had something that I could plant in my sim's inventory because I knew I wanted to put it by his grave. I had my sims actually host this at the graveyard. There is already a house kind of built up. It has a memorial table in it, so you can actually put your sim's portrait up. And then I will say a lot of the guests gathered around that. They were all kind of lighting candles, pouring one out, an awful lot of crying. They do just like autonomously do activities that you have chosen from the activity list. You get to choose the photo. You can also drag the photos from your inventory if you want it to be a little bit more personalized. If you just go with the default, it's actually a photo of the sim before they passed away. So they will be like the age, the representation of how they actually were just before they passed away, which I think is a nice little detail. If you host a eulogy on the little podium, sims will kind of just gravitate over and watch it, which works so much better than my wedding stories. They do autonomous behavior, but then they also like gather around and listen when you want them to. If they're not listening, there is also a way to gather guests, but I didn't have to use that at all. And then in the graveyard, when it comes to like the plot, you have to drag your remains of the person, so their urn or their gravestone, actually onto one of those lots, and that will actually claim it as their grave site. You can decorate these, you can go into build and buy mode, you can personalize them. You can actually put birthday cakes on graves, which I think is so sweet. So you can actually go and celebrate someone who has passed away at their birthday with them. You can also add books that they've written, a bunch of different like clutter objects. You can really personalize it to make it feel more like them. I kind of do wish that they had maybe balloons that you could put up. You can obviously turn off like the auto. If you drag an urn outside, it becomes a gravestone, and then if you put it inside, it becomes an urn. That came with the base game update, but now if you actually keep that on and like auto do it, if you drag an urn to the ground, then you can then drag that gravestone back up onto the concrete. So it doesn't have to be an urn. In the graveyard, there are a lot of townies, and none of the plots are really claimed unless you physically, as the player, do it. If you know townies who have passed away, then they should come up in your recently deceased, and you should be able to like put a photo up to kind of pretend that they're in there. Unfortunate because you don't have their remains, so they're technically like not gonna be in there, but you can still tend graves, and if you put a portrait up, it kind of feels like it's for that sim. You will see random townies just like running through here. I definitely saw Jeffrey and Nancy Landgrab like jogging through it, which is Nancy Landgrab behavior. I was a little put off by Jeffrey. Jeffrey, that's out of character for you, sir. You also can woohoo in some of the coffins. There are a couple of coffins dotted around like in kind of like these pre-built mausoleums, and you can obviously woohoo in the crypts. You can also nap in the crypts. You can explore, which is basically a bunch of pop-ups. It's rather like the cave that we got in For Rent and also in Horse Ranch. It just comes up with like choices that you can do. You can obviously find some tarot cards in here. You can also find other collectibles. You can also join the Undertaker career here, but the Undertaker career is just a traditional rabbit hole career, so it's not anything special. You don't like disappear off into the crypt every time when you go to work. Once a sim has actually passed away that you know or are close to, there is a chance that grief can actually hit your sim. This can be caused by obviously death of a pet, divorce, also getting fired from your job, but be wary, it doesn't always happen straight away. It happened straight away for one of my sims. She actually got the denial, which just made her bored an awful lot of the time. She was just like what's the point? Like, why am I here? Don't really want to get out of the bed, not really all that fuss. It does mainly affect the emotional system, and I know I've said that a lot in this video, but I do feel like a lot of this pack comes down to like emotions, which personally I'm not a huge fan of, because I think the emotion system is broken. I think it's too oversaturated. I think sims flip between emotions, and you kind of think that grief is like gonna take over your sim for at least a few days, and it doesn't. But there are 4 different types of divorce. There is anger, blues, denial, and holding it together. Anger I didn't see, but I imagine your sim can get quite angry quite frequently. Blues, they are quite gloomy and sad. Denial, like I said, they are bored a lot of the time. This also has the chance of changing to anger or blues and actually prolonging your period of grief, which is quite nice. That feels quite realistic. And holding it together is kind of like pretending that you're happy, but sometimes your mask can fall and your sim can become sad. Once you are in the grieving process, you can actually go to grief counseling. Your sim just goes off the lot. It's not like the counseling within Lovestruck. There are no pop-ups. There's not really anything to it. It also suggests activities. So if you go to your personality panel where your traits are, you can see the type of grieving that your sim currently has. If you hover over that, it actually comes up with like tips of how to reduce your grief. A lot of them are like the midlife crisis ones. It's a lot of, you know, go and cook, go do some gardening, painting, play instruments, write. I kind of wish there was a negative side to that. I hope that like maybe like it would be like get into arguments more frequently, or I just wish that grief was a little bit more powerful in the game. Ghost powers. This is actually a level 5 occult. It works like a lot of the other occults that we have in the game. The more you use your powers, obviously the more experience points you build up. You can actually see this in your, I think it's Simology panel. There is also ghost energy, so the more you use your powers, the more your energy will deplete. If you actually run it dry, there isn't anything like negative that happens. It's not like spellcaster where you can like be overcharged. Your ghost can't really fade away properly. It says that they faded away, but they need to just go and have a rest to build their energy back up. I do wish that maybe if you did push that too far, then they just go back to being a free roaming ghost. That would have been a pretty cool consequence for like depleting your powers too much. But there is a good side and there is an evil side to these powers. The two on the far left and far right are actually ladders, and that means that you need to get the previous power before moving on to the next one, but all the others are kind of just like a free-for-all. You can pick and choose. On the evil side, you can actually spawn rubbish, you can spawn puddles, you can give Sims nightmares whilst they are asleep, you can haunt instruments, which does actually help your skill level in that instrument go up, which is a pretty cool little piece of information. You can reduce the lifespan of a Sim. You can actually suck the life out of them. It does just mean that they age up by 1 day, so it's nothing too dramatic. Unfortunately, I would love, once again, if that had a little bit more consequence and you could do that a little bit too much and maybe meet the Grim Reaper, if you know what I'm saying. And then on the good side, you can obviously give people nice dreams. You can clean for them. You can help them with their emotions. You can actually extend their life. Get traversal. Ghost traversal is incredible. It's basically like teleport, but it's way quicker than when vampires do it because they don't need to like switch into a bat or anything. They just go up in a cloud of smoke and then they're instantly wherever you want to have them on the map. And trust me, in a neighborhood that feels kind of open worldy, that is definitely going to be my main priority in every single ghost that I have. You can obviously work for the Grim Reaper. This is very much like a get to work career. It is a fully active career. You can either choose to send your Sim alone and they will just go off into a rabbit hole, or you can join them on their work day. First day that you get there, it'll just kind of be like getting to know the office, getting to know the tasks. You can practice on the dummy, you can sharpen your scythe, and then as you get further into the career, you actually start to scry for assignments in the little like scrying bowls. Once you have your assignment, you can either carry on doing a couple of little tasks within the office, or you can go to your assignment. Once again, you scry for travel. I will say I did see a handful of different assignments. Just to give you a couple of examples, I went to one. Johnny's S was being haunted by like 5 spirits. There were 5 ghosts all around his tiny little trailer, and they were breaking objects, they were haunting. Johnny was so scared, and then I had to go around and collect the souls from those ghosts. There is obviously your classic reaping. This sometimes has witnesses. This is a little bit like the detective career. You have to kind of like click on the Sim who has passed away, and you have to determine their cause of death by investigating them. You can take witness statements, and then eventually you can reap the soul, or you can listen to a witness plead their case and maybe you don't want to reap the soul. There was one where I had to make Grimbrosia for Grim, so I got taken to a couple of lots and there were these fissures in the ground. Before you close those fissures, definitely just reach into them, because the only negative I found was that you got some emotions of like your hand was burning or you were tense from something touching you. Nothing dramatic happened, so may as well always take that chance and just get a collectible from it before you close it. And then I also had to harvest these plants, and then once I was back to the office, I could go and make Grimbrosia and deliver it to Grim. There was also a very, very heartbreaking moment where I loaded into Magnolia Blossom. There were 4 Sims just lying there, just waiting for their souls to be reaped, and a cow plant in the back. And yes, the cow plant had eaten all of them. That was my favorite one. Just seeing like the lineup of Sims, I was like, oop. You have a souls quota when it comes to this job. The notification for this was definitely broken. It was kind of giving rent vibes, but don't worry, it wasn't quite as bad as that. It just kept saying you have like 1 day to fill your quota, 1 day to fill your quota. I realized after about the first 3 days that was an absolute lie, and I had a week. So it resets like Sunday, Monday-ish. If you have reached the quota, which you can check your souls quota on a computer whilst you are at your job, you can see how many souls are needed for that week, and then you can actually put those souls through the portal and they will add up onto your quota. If you hit your quota, there is a little chest in front of Grim's box. When you next go to work, you can go to that box and you can redeem some little gifts from Grim himself. He gave me a collector's plaque. which was very odd. And then he also gave me like 600 simoleons. For this job, you're probably going to want to focus on the new skill, which is thanatology, and then also I'm fairly sure charisma, but it was so easy, I promise you, to get promotions. I played for about a Sims week and I think I was already like a level 5. It was wild how quickly I was getting promoted. Also, the Grim Reaper is on the job, so if you want to romance him, you know, we can have babies with the Grim Reaper now. So side quest for you whilst you're at your career. There is also the second career of the Undertaker. This is a level 10 career. You can either go into the mortician branch or the funeral director branch. Gardening and athletic, at least for the first parts of these careers, actually did help an awful lot. Those were kind of the skills that I needed my sim to focus on. Your sim just goes off the lot. It is a traditional career. However, I did keep getting the same pop-up. Speaking of the thanatology skill, it is actually the study of death. It is only a level 5 skill. You can actually read theories on the computer about different hauntings and such. You can ask people about local hauntings. You can also write obituaries. And then once you start to level this up, you can start speaking dead languages. It is just like one little like animation, but it sounds pretty cool. There are a fair few festivals dotted around Ravenwood. There are actually 3 that happen in Crow's Crossing, 1 that happens in, I've already forgotten, Whispering Glen, and then 2 that actually happen in Morning Vale. They're not the most interesting of festivals. They're not like as in depth as, let's say, the city living ones or cottage living. There is a couple of things that you can do. So at the family fun one, kids can really like play with spectres and have fun with spectres. You could also go talk to the spectres, but that's nothing special because the spectres are in that park pretty much all of the time. They actually help with grief. There's also frog catching in the pond. If you find I think it's the ghost frog. It's got a special name, maybe skeleton frog. I found a couple of them, but if you find that, you win the grand prize. You can also go and talk to the collectibles person who has a little sign. They will buy a bunch of collectibles. I do actually think this pack is good for those of you who like a rags to riches. There's a lot of collectibles and people will pay money for them. And then obviously there is the lawyer. So if you do want to create a will or just learn more about stuff, you can go speak to them. Life Celebration, it's really just a memorial. They have like a little memorial stand. They have music playing. It's just a celebration of life. It just felt like a pop-up funeral. The casket sale actually happens like under a tree near the bigger fountain, not the one in the actual like park bit, but the one further back behind the Moppy statue. It happens Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's pretty much just a pop-up shop. You can talk to the Undertaker pretty much about like your future. You can try coffins. You can also just like view coffins, and then you can actually purchase them from him, I think at a little bit of a discount from buying it in like build and buy mode. The Moon Revelry, this is pretty much a bonfire. People fire dance, they go swimming, you can have some food, you can go moon bathing, and then if this happens on a full moon, you can also take your clothes off. You can moon the world at the Moon Revelry. Festivale I think was my favorite, not because it offered like anything more than the others. I think it just looked the coolest. This was also the first time that I was able to get my tarot read from someone not in my active household. So Zelmira hangs around in front of the little tent and you can ask for a tarot reading. I don't know if that's possible to do on other Sims. I could not see an interaction for it, and it definitely feels like a missed opportunity to just be able to have like people do tarot readings on you. There was also the Grim Turn challenge. That was literally just a Grim Turn who like gave me a little bit of merch. They're basically just about meeting the community and eating some food. That's what all of these festivals do. And then there was also Afterlife Anonymous, which is for the ghosts. So there are a bunch of ghosts around. There's a little podium where you can actually admit your ghost problems. You can possess a chest if you have like all of this energy that you need to get out somewhere. There's also food and coffee, and it's like a little circular meeting. I do like that one just because it is a nice little place for you to go meet other ghosts, and I like the comedy of it. It kind of has like the humor of like older Sims games, but none of them are all that special. The rest of Vale is actually held in a pretty interesting place because it's held near the Guardian Tree, and you might bump into the Mother of Sorrow. Now, when you first load up into a save in Ravenwood, she is going to be in a sad mood. She is going to be crying an awful lot of the time, and you can actually talk to her. You can ask her about her sorrow, and she'll actually send you off on a little quest to find out what have happened to her children. She is actually a young adult, so clearly she died quite young, and she wants to know like what the future was for her children. So there are 4 kids that you have to find. If you just hover over this actually in the panel, it will show you basically where they can all be found. If you want to skip ahead, don't worry, I'm not going to be offended. I will give a spoiler warning and let you like hop ahead to a timestamp that I'm going to put down below. The first child of hers is actually in a crypt. You can go to any crypt in Ravenwood and you will come across him as soon as you start this quest. Freddy is the spectre with the little bow tie in the park. He is so cute. I absolutely love him. Anne is actually on an island. That's all I'm gonna give you for Anne. And then obviously Edith. We know Edith resides by the Well of Longing and Regret. And then once you complete this quest, the Guardian Tree actually opens to you, and you can use this to refill your needs, and you can also go scavenging within it. And then Alice will also enter a little happy mood, and she'll stay that way because she has closure on all of her children, and I just think that's so cute. Although you can then continue to do the quest even if she's not sad with other Sims in that save. Edith mainly chills by the well, which can actually be found in Crow's Crossing near the like dilapidated house. She is an angry ghost child. She is very up and down with her mood. You have to like try and communicate with her, and then even if you do open up the doors of communication, she can just not be in a good mood and she can just be mean to you, and it's really hard to like build up a friendship with her. However, if you are lucky enough to build a friendship with her by everything going correct for you, you can actually ask for the mark of Edith, and then once you have this mark, it will be shown in your emotions, and then you can use it. It works as basically a good luck charm to go and wish on the well, and I'm fairly sure if you have the mark of Edith, the well will do well for you every time, and it will actually be a success, but don't quote me on that one. There's also Waylon. I know I've already spoken about him. He chills in the little like graveyard crypt area in front of the Spectre household, but he sells stuff, and if you are actually a ghost, when you use your powers and you either scare Sims or make Sims happy, you collect essence. Yes, my Sims players, I see you. We are eating. Oh, I'm so excited for that to come out. Oh my goodness gracious me. You can sell these essences to him. They said for a hefty price. I definitely didn't feel like we were getting a good price. I feel like we were being ripped off by Waylon, and I just didn't really focus on them all that much because, like I said, the Grimturn career was bringing in so much money. He also has some like mysterious stuff that he can sell you. You can haggle with him. The mysterious stuff, I just got like an emotion potion. It wasn't anything special. I definitely want to play around with that to see what else he can give me. If you're struggling to meet your souls quota, Waylon will be your best friend. You can buy illegal souls from him and then just give them to the Grim Reaper. You can click on the town hall both in Morning Vale and in Crow's Crossing to get information about the festivals. You can check out billboards about the different neighborhoods. You can also focus the camera on different locations if you are struggling to find them. You can also just use amenities there, which means it gets up your hygiene and your toilet need. You can ring the bell tower over in Morning Vale. That will again just spawn some specters for you if you are living over there. And then Grimborn. You can have Sims babies. They do get a special trait called Grimborn. It does appear in their traits panel, and if you hover over it, it will let you know that they have an extended life, so they can live a little bit longer. If they then have children, they can pass on the descendant of Grim. I don't think that does anything. It's just kind of a way to show your like history and your family's past. You can't actually have science babies with the Grim Reaper though. Whew, I'm surprised I didn't become a ghost from lack of breath, because I have been recording for a long while. But that wraps up all of the gameplay included with The Sims 4 Life and Death. Hopefully I covered everything. I'm fairly sure I did. If there's anything that you maybe have questions about, if you need to double check anything, you need to run anything by me, please do not hesitate to let me know down in the comments. I will, to the best of my ability, try and get back to you all. I am gonna have pretty much my like thoughts, how I really feel about this pack actually in my should life and death be an expansion pack video, which is hopefully gonna be up on Wednesday. I know I have talked in this video about things that I maybe would have liked to see them push a little bit more or give us just something else to like kind of back it up. But I'm gonna sit on all of my thoughts. Overall, I do think obviously it's like a lot of gameplay. Like this is a bigger expansion pack than we've seen for a little bit. I feel like this is probably on the same level as like growing together. However, I will say a lot of it does feel quite easy. I have had an extremely busy time during early access, so I haven't actually been able to play this pack like as much as I usually do, and I still feel like I was able to do an awful lot of it in about 2 Sims weeks. Now obviously that is me like playing it to the best of my ability and like pushing it like as far as I can possibly go, because I want to get the most content and like most knowledge for you lot for these types of videos. But even just the ease of being able to go up in the Grim Reaper career, and also the ease of like completing a soul's journey that is meant to be this like all-encompassing thing that allows your sim to like do all of these things in their life. It's just really a cheat code for getting extra satisfaction points and like getting up in your career easier, and it just felt like too easy for me personally. But I would love to hear all of your thoughts based on what you've seen in this video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I know this was a long one, but I appreciate you all very, very much, and I'll speak to you all in my next life and death video, which like I said is probably going to be more my like put together thoughts and opinions actually on this pack.